My name is Reggie Cole, and I was wrongly convicted for 16 and a half years.
Reggie Cole. On March 27, 1994, the police were called to an apartment building in south central Los Angeles. There had been a shooting. When detectives Marcelo Wynn and Peter Rosanskis arrived on the scene, there was a cold, dead body lying in the road. He was identified as 29-year-old Felipe Gonzalez Angeles. Earlier that night, Angeles and his two friends were out drinking. They came to the apartment building because on the second floor there was a brothel. Angeles wanted to see a prostitute named Melinda. When he knocked on the door of the brothel, he was told that Melinda was busy and he needed to leave. As Angeles and his friends were walking back to their car, people inside the brothel heard 4 gunshots, then the sound of screeching tires, and that was followed by 4 more gunshots. People working at the brothel went outside and found Angeles and his 2 friends lying in the road. They had all been shot. His friends were rushed to the hospital and they survived, but Angeles did not. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The detectives interviewed the owner of the brothel, John Jones. He said that he saw the shooting. He said that 3 or 4 young black men, wearing trench coats and carrying silver revolvers, tried to rob Angeles and his friends. He said that one of the robbers was shot in the leg. Detectives Wynn and Rosanskis went around to local hospitals looking for a man who had been shot in the leg. A security guard at a hospital in south central Los Angeles got in contact with the detectives and said he remembered a man with a bullet wound in his leg coming into the ER on the night of the shooting. However, the detectives found no records of a man with a bullet wound coming into the hospital that night. Less than a month after the shooting, Detective Wynn received an anonymous tip that led her to 19-year-old Obie Anthony, who was a member of the 9 Deuce Hoover Crips. At the time, Anthony was in the LA County Jail because he had been arrested while driving a stolen car with another man. When he was arrested, Anthony said that a third man was involved in the carjacking, 19-year-old Reggie Cole. Cole was a fellow gang member who sold crack cocaine. The police arrested Cole in a hotel room, and he denied being involved in the carjacking. Detectives Wynn and Rosanskis brought Cole into an interviewing room, and Rosanskis searched him. He pulled up one of Cole's pant legs, and they saw a scar from a bullet wound. Wynn and Rosanskis showed John Jones, the owner of the brothel who claimed to see the shooting, Anthony and Cole's pictures in a photo lineup. He picked out both men on his first try. He then picked them out of a live lineup. In the fall of 1994, both Obie Anthony and Reggie Cole went to trial. Both young men claimed they were innocent. They said that they were hungover the night of the shooting after attending a birthday party the night before. Also, there was absolutely no physical evidence that connected the men to the shooting. John Jones was the star witness for the prosecution, and he said he saw Cole and Anthony approach Angeles and his 2 friends on the street. They tried to rob them and then ended up shooting them. Jones said that he was not receiving anything in exchange for his testimony. Anthony and Cole were found guilty and they were sentenced to life in prison. Cole was sent to Calipatria State Prison in Imperial County to start serving his term. He eventually joined the prison gang, 49 Deuce Crips. In November 2000, about 6 years into his sentence, Cole upset one of the gang's shot callers. The shot caller was a hulking 200-pound man named Eddie Clark, who was better known by his nickname, the Devil. Clark was a violent inmate who had a history of sexually assaulting other inmates. Clark was 34, and he had spent half of his life in prison. He was first convicted of murder when he was a juvenile. He had beat another teenager to death. He was released, and then during a robbery, he sexually assaulted a woman and shot her son. Cole's run-in with Clark started when Clark's cellmate was working in the prison yard. The cellmate was also a high-ranking member of the gang. A guard found a shiv and a glove on the ground beside him. Cole happened to be working in the yard when the shiv was found, so Clark ordered Cole to say that the shiv was his. Cole refused. Not long afterward, on November 28, 2000, Clark walked up behind Cole and stabbed him in the side with a sharpened piece of steel. Clark whispered in Cole's ear that he was now his bitch. Clark then walked away before any correctional officers saw what he did. Cole knew that Clark would probably repeatedly sexually assault him and then murder him. Seeing no other option, Cole dug up a shiv that was buried in the yard. It was 6 inches long and had been made from the pieces of a stapler. While Clark was being searched by a guard, Cole came up on...
In Calipatria, Devil was one of the leaders of the Hoovers. He had a vicious reputation for violence and also taking manhoods. He was doing so much, even the Hoovers had an intervention with him. Eventually, one of the Hoovers' pokers were found. Devil wanted Gumby to take the charge, but Gumby refused. Once Gumby refused, Devil wanted to take Gumby out. November 28th, 2000, Devil approached Gumby and stuck him in his side. Devil stuck many people in the yard. Nobody snitched or nobody got revenge. Later that day, Gumby got a poker and took Devil's life. He was now facing the death penalty. Gumby hired an attorney and fought the new case for 3 years. Gumby's attorney found many flaws in his original case and found the cops to be crooked and that Michael lied, putting Little Day and Gumby to crimes that they didn't commit. At this point, Gumby has spent around 14 years in prison. Many past witnesses were re-questioned and all recanted their statements. By February 2008, a judge decided that Gumby and Lil Day were both wrongfully convicted. Gumby still had to face the charge of taking Devil's life. He was charged with manslaughter, but got time served and was later released along with Day. Day received $8 million as compensation for being falsely accused of the shooting. After his release, he started a foundation and is now married. Gumby didn't receive any compensation after LA District Attorney told his lawyer he was still a menace to society. Gumby is still in LA and has been a participant in marches and protests against the police and injustice. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, in Calipatria, Devil was one of the...
He played basketball at Poly High School. He was a regular dude. He had a flat top. You know what I mean? And he was going to prison for, he had took a deal for, I believe it was like a spousal abuse. Him and his girl, it was a terrorist threat.
In the United States, a terrorist threat covers any statement that contains the threat of violence against another person. In this case, Reggie is talking about an argument a man was having with his girlfriend, where he threatened her.
He told he was going to beat her ass or whatever it was. It was a terrorist threat. It was no physical violence or anything, but he took a deal for 18 months, and he was only supposed to do like 8 months. Yo, you take a deal for 18 months, you're going to do 5 or 10 or whatever. So he fell for the bullshit. The first night we got there, they asked who from South Central. I'm from South Central. Where you from? Explain to them where I'm from. Okay, well, your homeboys are over here, etc., etc. They're going to direct you where you're supposed to go. This guy, he didn't have anybody. He was just from Long Beach. He just was a regular dude, and that night I'm on my bunk and I'm listening to what's going on, and at first I thought they were playing, because that's what it started off was. This is the whole gimmick. Everything is a ploy to lead to something else. That's why they tell you don't let anybody touch you in jail. And he didn't know this. He didn't understand that you're not supposed to wrestle with somebody in the cell, because this is what they're doing. They're trying to see if they can get you in a vulnerable position, and that's it right there. I'm on my bunk and I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, damn, ain't somebody gonna come help this dude? I mean, and they didn't that night.
What the fuck you doing, man?
Cole committed his first murder in the Sea Yard of California's Calipatria State Prison. He was a